Right now, without thinking, pick up something near you. You didn't pause. You didn't calculate. One hand simply moved. That hand has been your hand your whole life. And here's the unsettling part. You never chose it. Something inside you made that decision before you took your very first breath, before you held anything, before you existed outside the womb. So what made that choice, and why does almost every human end up on the same side? Let's start somewhere unexpected. Ultrasound machines gave scientists a strange gift. Doctors watching unborn babies noticed something. Fetuses suck their thumbs. And they don't pick randomly. Most lean toward the right thumb. The ones who lean left almost always grow up left-handed. The brain is already choosing sides before birth. Before the first lesson. Before any outside influence whatsoever. And once locked in, it almost never changes. Now let's go much further back. A Neanderthal died in Croatia about 130,000 years ago. Scientists found the skull. And when they looked closely at the front teeth, they saw tiny scratches. Diagonal, deliberate. This individual had been working animal hide, holding it with their teeth, scraping it with a stone tool. Sometimes the tool slipped. And the direction of those scratches tells you which hand held the blade. The right hand. Again. A Homo habilis fossil from nearly 2 million years ago shows the exact same pattern. And cave paintings confirm it. Across Europe, Argentina, and Indonesia, ancient artists pressed one hand to a wall and blew pigment around it. The vast majority of stenciled hands are the left hand, which means the hand steady enough to do the work was the right. 2 million years. Same hand. Same ratio. Roughly 10% of every human population that has ever lived was left-handed. Every continent. Every culture. Every century. That number doesn't move. And no other species shows this. Chimpanzees have individual preferences, but nothing consistent across the species. We're the only animal that picks one side almost universally. Except kangaroos. Kangaroos are predominantly left-handed. And like us, they walk upright. Some researchers believe that freeing the hands from walking forces the brain to pick a side. Walking upright might be what created handedness in the first place, which raises an obvious question. If almost everyone is right-handed, why do left-handers exist at all? Here's the twist. Look at sport. In Major League Baseball, roughly half the greatest hitters of all time bat left-handed. From a group that makes up only 10% of the population. The same pattern appears in boxing, fencing, and tennis. A 2019 study found that left-handed combat athletes win significantly more often than right-handed opponents. Not because of strength, because of surprise. If you spend your whole athletic life training against right-handed opponents, your reflexes are tuned for right-handed attacks. Then a left-hander walks in. Everything is mirrored. You're off by a fraction of a second. In a fight, that fraction decides everything. But look at golf. Among the world's elite golfers, only about 4% are left-handed. In golf, you don't face an opponent. There is no surprise advantage, just a world of right-handed clubs and right-handed coaching built for the majority. Left-handedness is an advantage when you compete head-to-head. It is a disadvantage when you cooperate with a world built by the majority. The 10% is the evolutionary balance point between those two pressures. The math holds itself steady, generation after generation. Now here's what makes this truly interesting. Around 2 to 3 million years ago, the left hemisphere of the human brain began specializing. Language, planning, fine motor control. All started consolidating on the left side, and the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body. So as speech developed, the right hand came along for the ride. In 1861, a French doctor named Paul Broca discovered that language production consistently lived on the left side of the brain. Right next to that language region sits another area that activates specifically when humans make and use tools. Speech, tools, and hand control all sharing the same neighborhood. That clustering is why most of us are right-handed. Left-handers have a different arrangement. Language sometimes sits on the right, sometimes split. And this different wiring has real effects. When left-handers suffer brain damage to language areas, they often recover faster. Because the other hemisphere can step in, the two halves of their brain communicate more freely. The psychologist Chris McManus, who spent decades studying handedness, describes the left-hander's brain as simply less strict, less divided, more willing to share the work. And yet history treated this as a defect. The Latin word for left is sinister. The French word gauche means both left and clumsy. For centuries, schools tied left-handed children's hands behind their backs, punished them for a preference their brain had locked in before birth. In some places, this continued into the 1960s. It almost never worked, because the brain wasn't negotiating. So, the full picture now. Before you were born, your brain picked a side. That preference matches patterns found in fossils 2 million years old. Ancient ancestors showed the same bias scraping hides and shaping stone. Cave painters revealed which hand they trusted most. Evolution kept 10% left-handed because rarity itself became an advantage in combat. Language and tool use pulled the same hemisphere into dominance, taking the right hand with it. And the left-hander's brain, wired differently, turned out to be not broken, but distinct. And today, when you instinctively reach with your dominant hand, you are running 2 million years of brain evolution in a fraction of a second. You didn't choose your hand. Something ancient chose it for you. And maybe that's true of more than just your hands. So much of what feels like personal choice might be ancient wiring dressed up as free will. And if that's worth sitting with, there are a few more thoughts where that came from.